The Prime Minister hasn't ruled out joining US President Donald Trump's so-called Board of Peace, which could reportedly include Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin. That's a position that Labour leader Chris Hipkins has summed up in one word: embarrassing. Political correspondent Zane Small reports.
The Beehive acting as a backdrop to Iranian resistance.
IRGC terrorists!
IRGC terrorists!
Protesters gathered in the rain to bring attention to the brutality of the Iranian regime amid a crackdown on demonstrators in the country.
Donald Trump, he tried to support this movement, but, he's unpredictable.
The US president was the talk of the town at Parliament today. In particular, his recent remarks to Fox News about NATO troops.
We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. They'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little off the front lines. But we've been very good to Europe and to many other countries.
New Zealand's Defence Force troops were deployed to Afghanistan in support of NATO.
Well, I found those comments incredibly disrespectful and wrong. New Zealand had 3,500 troops that we sent to Afghanistan. We lost 10 lives.
But the Prime Minister is still considering an invitation to join Trump's Board of Peace to oversee Gaza's future in the wake of Israel's war on Hamas. A block of Muslim-majority nations have joined up so far. Even Israel and Russia's leaders have been invited. California's Governor Gavin Newsom posted this image in response to Trump's Board of Peace, and the president's former right-hand man said this.
I heard about the formation of the Peace Summit, and I was like, is that P-I-E-C? A little piece of Greenland, a little piece of Venezuela.
As for New Zealand,
we'll make our own decision as we do, acting in our own national interests, and there's some work to do for us to go through it in some detail. It deserves a proper considered response.
It's embarrassing that the Prime Minister is still entertaining this at the potential cost of $1 billion of New Zealanders' taxpayers' money, but more than that, to set up an alternative institution to the United Nations in which Donald Trump gets to install himself as CEO of planet Earth.
The idea that a New Zealand Prime Minister would in any way entertain being part of that is just embarrassing.
I would rather have a government process that deals in facts rather than political posturing, which is something that Chris Hipkins has been pretty good at lately.
But Chris Hipkins seems to have the upper hand right now in public perception. He's the top choice for Prime Minister in the latest RNZ Reid research poll at 21.1% to Christopher Luxon's 19.4%. Labour's also out in front on 35%, while National has slipped to 31.9%. The Prime Minister still optimistic.
I feel more confident than ever that the recovery has now arrived and the Kiwis can look forward to a year which is brighter than the last few have been.
That brightness may be sucked up by his coalition partner Winston Peters, whose party New Zealand First has jumped to 9.8%.
No, we don't want the sociological claptrap running our country.
Winston Peters is very good at scratching every populist itch that he can find, and it's clear that there is, there are quite a few itches out there to scratch.
Populism that's gone global thanks to Donald Trump's brand of politics.
OK, Zane, so a busy first day back at Parliament, but there looks to be some rare bipartisanship that's building between Labour and National.
Yeah, that's right, Sam. It goes back to the free trade agreement between India and New Zealand that the Prime Minister announced at the end of last year. The problem for Christopher Luxon was that Winston Peters came out and said that New Zealand First wouldn't support it because he felt like the deal didn't get enough for our dairy exporters. But luckily for the Prime Minister, Labour came out and expressed some support for getting it across the line. And today, Labour leader Chris Hipkins confirmed that it had been discussed at Labour's caucus meeting this morning. And he said Labour had sent across some concerns to the government about it, but Labour does seem broadly supportive of getting the government the numbers to get that trade deal passed through Parliament. And interestingly, this has actually happened before. Winston Peters didn't support the free trade deal between China and New Zealand back when he was in government with Labour under Helen Clark.